Hey guys, welcome back to the I'm Stricken channel. It's I'm Stricken. And today's video is going to be a little bit different. I'm not actually going to be building anything, repairing anything, or tinkering on the car. Today I'm going to be answering a question from a lot of viewers that I've received pretty much for the past year. Today's video is going to be about my favorite tools. Now this is a question I've received from a lot of different viewers on YouTube, from a lot of different forums, and I'm going to answer it today finally. I finally have pretty much compiled a list of tools that I think are some of my most important assets in my garage. So stay tuned and I'm going to show you some of my favorite and most useful tools. Now right off the bat, I have to say my car ramps. I have 4 of them. There's 2 rows and they're double stacked. My car ramps and my jack stands. You guys have seen me do a lot of different videos, from oil changes, differential fluids, transmission fluids. I mean, you name it. If I'm under the car, I'm using these ramps. And they hold a ton of weight. They come in all different sizes. These will hold 4,000 pounds per pair, or 2,000 pounds each. These are made by Blitz. You can find these in any automotive store. I love these things. I drive my car right up them, and they just elevate my vehicle to a comfortable position, so when I'm underneath it, I don't have to be cramped. And they are really an awesome asset to the garage. I love them. The jack stands are back there. They are Harbor Freight jack stands. They will hold, these are 3-ton capacity. They are from Harbor Freight, and I also got these little rubber covers. They help protect the unibody, the frame, that little pinch weld, as it's called, along the frame of the vehicle. Along, actually, with the ramps and jack stands is going to be my 3-ton jack. This is a rapid pump style jack, as you can see here. Also, Harbor Freight was about 70 bucks, I think I got it on sale. Absolutely amazing quality jack. Has got me through a lot of pinches. Now, another tool that I could not do without is going to be my Milwaukee impact wrench. 167 foot-pounds of torque. This thing is an absolute beast. It has been through hell and back. I've done brake jobs. I do lug nuts with this thing. You name it. Tow hitches I've done. I've done exhaust work with this thing. This thing is an absolute beast. This is model number 2651-20. It's an 18-volt powerhouse. I got the anvil that has the friction ring on it, so this way sockets can slide on and off with ease, and they stay on nice and firm. It comes with well, this one didn't come with batteries, but my drill came with 2 batteries and a charger, and the batteries actually have a fuel gauge on it, and you push the button and it tells you exactly how much life is left. The impact itself has an LED on it, which is really useful, believe it or not. I know it sounds a little cheesy, but when you're working in the dark doing a quick tire change on the side of the highway, that little flashlight in your hands actually does work wonders. This is a 1-speed, well, you know what? Actually, it will go slowly, and it'll go very, very quickly. There's no actual switch on it like some other Milwaukee products that have a 1 or a 2 on the top. And that leads me to another Milwaukee tool, and that's going to be my drill. Works on the same battery, same platform, the M18 series. This thing is also another beast from Milwaukee. You truly get what you pay for. This is model number 2601-20. Yeah, 2601-20. This thing is an absolute beast. I can't even explain to you the types of jobs I've done with these products. I had this thing so hot doing a brake job on my front caliper that it got so hot, this thing was almost impossible to touch, and this thing actually shut off. It's got an internal limiter on it, both of these, all the units actually, that when they get extremely hot, instead of damaging itself and frying out, it turns off. I actually did it twice in a row to this unit, and this thing still runs a 1.5 years later. This thing, same thing. I'll drill into bumper supports. I'll drill into serious metalwork. I'm talking very serious hardened steel. Drill bits are smoke, and I got to drop oil on them just to keep them lubricated, and this thing still runs. This is a dual speed unit. You got a slow, and then in number 2, it's a more powerful, faster spin. and a basically like a gear selector where you could dial it down. And what I do is actually, again, as I'm under a mechanical sense, I will apply a chuck where I can use sockets on it, and I'll dial this down to say like 10 or 15. And what happens is there's some things you don't need to screw on very tight in the vehicle, and usually it's, you know, like little fender bolts or fender bolts, or you know, headlights. You don't really need to screw it in. Usually it's going to be a screw with a socket head that will attach to a piece of plastic into the frame of the vehicle. So what ends up happening is I'll just put a socket on it and dial it down to say 10, and as this thing's spinning, when it reaches a decent amount of torque without breaking the plastic piece that I'm screwing into, it'll just make that noise, and that's the ratcheting, let you know that back off, it's done. And when I'm actually drilling, I'll dial it into the drill picture, and this thing is, I'm telling you, just absolutely unstoppable. It's a beast. Now, regarding the impact, this is 167 foot-pounds of torque. This is my lug nut socket. The 167 foot-pound of torque model, I will be upgrading this, not because it's bad, not because it's worn out. I just want more torque. And I got my eye on, I'm going to annotate the model right below here, and it's 700 foot-pounds of torque and 1100 foot-pounds of torque. It's 700 going in and 1100 coming back out. That is an absolute monstrosity of torque. That will rival most air impacts. There's no reason for an air tank, a loud compressor pump, hoses, and then expensive impact guns when you can get it all via a battery and a charger system. Put on your socket and you're good to go. Can you imagine 700 foot-pounds of torque in your hand, cordless? That's crazy. Now, I've seen some videos on YouTube, and I'll probably annotate it. A guy did a test. He put the impact, the one that I want, on a bench test, and it did 900 instead of 700 foot-pounds of torque. I believe, and I've heard this from many people, they've all tested that 700, and it's actually 900. So I don't know if Milwaukee's just kind of limiting themselves from any potential lawsuits and saying it's 700, but it's actually 900 foot-pounds of torque going in, and then 1100 backing out. That's just insane. So let's move on to the next tools. Now, while we are on the subject of impacts, let's look at the socket wrenches, or the sockets and the ratchets. You've seen me use this quite a bit. It's my Husky trusty ratchet. It's not very long. It's probably about 11 inches or so. It's got a decent head on it, and it locks the socket in via this button. It will actually not allow you to take it off via this ball. You have to push the button in, and that will actually allow this ball to release the socket. These are obviously non-impact sockets. You can't use these on an impact gun, but these, where are they? These you can. These are the deep sockets that I will use on really long, say, bolts or anything that's got a rod going through the nut. These I'll use on, say, brakes, you know, calipers, things like that. These, I don't use so much the deep ones, but the smaller ones, I use them a ton. I mean, an absolute ton. You could definitely tell the wear compared to these. These are pretty much almost new. But for the smaller jobs, I will use these on a drill with an attachment, for example, like that. And again, I scale this down to where it won't be very powerful. I'll usually be doing like body parts that have plastic attached to it, or the screw head will be a plastic piece. These I've used for a long time. I'm not a big picky fan regarding brands on sockets. These are all Harbor Freight down here below. These impacts, these are all Harbor Freight, and I can tell you, I would line these up against any other major brand. These have been through hell and back. I cannot explain to you how many jobs. Some of these were too hot to the touch. Shut my drill off and impact off before they break. So I would definitely go with the Harbor Freight low-cost budget impact sockets. They are an absolute beast. Plus lifetime warranties. So you know what? What's the point of spending on a Husky brand for a or any other Snap-on or Matco, whatever, when you can get the same warranty out of these and you don't have to go to anywhere special store. Just go right to Harbor Freight and they'll swap it out for you, no questions asked. Some of these are mixed up. These are I got, I believe, for free for something. I bought like a bunch of crap one day from AutoZone. These are called Autocraft. Again, cheap, run of the mill, but they're not impact, rated. So there's no, I'm not too afraid of them breaking. Some of these are Champion. Some of these are, I'll have what is this one called? Power Built or something? I don't know. This big guy I used. This is a Craftsman. I used this on an axle nut on my 2007 GSXR 600. This is a pretty big socket. Pretty much, that's the only reason why it's so big without a matching set, is because it was just for that one rear axle nut on the Suzuki race bike. This was this is kind of like a strange thing. You don't see this too often. This is actually for a front of a sport bike, race bike axle, because it's not. I don't even know how to describe it, but basically this will fit most sport bikes when you're doing a quick tire change. When I was at the racetrack, you would need to buy new tires or something, and this came in pretty handy. I also have extensions, non-impact, and some that are impact. And these I use quite a bit. I'll usually use them on a ratchet, along with, say, an oil filter cap. And this will allow me to reach into some, a spot. And also these guys, I don't use them very often, but one of my most popular videos ever, 15,000 views already. These are lug nut lock removers. They are reverse threaded, so when you put it on your impact and it's drilling in, it's actually, drilling out. It's actually threading onto the lug nut, and it's going to remove it. So you can see the threads inside. Watch my video. You'll see how quickly and easily these remove wheel locks. About 20 bucks in some auto store. So the next runner-up for my most favorite or most often used tools is going to be, whenever I'm working around electronics or wires, shrink wrap. You hit it with a heat gun, and it shrinks up to half its size, if not more. And it secures the wire inside of any socket, or terminal. And you can even color code some wires if you need to turn it, make it a red wire. Just hit it up with a heat gun, and this will shrink tremendously. I have all different sizes. Again, Harbor Freight, just a few bucks. Extremely useful. And you can also take two terminals, put them together, have this heat shrink, slide it up, hit it with a heat gun, and you've now secured the terminal from short circuiting if it touches any metal on a car, which is, as we know, ground. I have everything organized. They come usually in little kits like this from Harbor Freight, about that size. I buy 2 of everything and stack them into this larger box. And what I'll do is I'll organize it by the gauge. That's what you see, those handwritten numbers on the walls right here, all over. I have these these will actually shrink up and glue to the wire itself, creating a watertight seal. That's what these 3 rows here are. These, similar concept, but they won't glue themselves to the wire. It's just a crimp, and that's it. But that's where I will use the heat shrink and put the heat shrink, put the wire in, slide the heat shrink on top, crimp whatever I got to crimp, and then hit the heat shrink, and it makes a nice tight seal all the way around. I'm not a big fan of these things. I don't really like them. They're pretty flimsy. They're really not for anything that vibrates. A car vibrates a lot, but basically you slide in 2 wires. Why isn't it focusing? There we go. You slide in 2 wires, and as you can see, one hole is clogged, one is not. So basically, if you have a wire that's already ran in the vehicle, that's positive or something, you will pop this on the first wire. That's the first row, and then you slide in this wire over here, and you pinch it with a tool. Oh great, I just pinched it. And then just close it shut, and that is supposed to make the contact necessary. Basically, it's like piggybacking or jumping a wire. The blue and red are 2 different gauges. Ring terminals, I have a couple different sizes here. This is good for like a battery post, nice wide. This is for like a good screw or something if you want to ground it. Got all different size ring terminals, everything from that size to big size to a teeny little one. male and female terminals. These are awesome for LEDs. If you install any kind of emergency lighting or just, you know, regular LED lighting. LEDs don't carry a lot of current. Most emergency lights carry half of an amp to max like 3 amps. This will handle that. You just basically attach this to the wire and then slide it in to each other and it will lock it. So sticking to the electrical tools, right along with all the terminals and shrink wrap, I have these 3 tools, and I actually have one on the way. I really wish I would have had it. But basically this is what you would need for a decent wiring job, actually a professional wiring job. On the right, starting off, is your basic wire crimper. See the crimpers inside of that? You would crimp your ring terminal. And on the top is going to be your wire cutter. And because it's such a large tool, you have a lot of leverage, so you can really cut a very wide wire. This is a very tiny wire, so it's even easier. Right along is you're going to have this tool. Now, a word of advice, don't get the cheap ones because I have bent them just trying to crimp different terminals. Get the hardy one. Get the one that you can't bend. You know what I mean? Like, it's not flimsy. It's a nice thick piece of steel. So basically you have your wire stripper inside, which I honestly never use because I don't like to pull this, but it works. And these happen to be pretty damn sharp. You can take a file and make it even sharper. And then on top here is you have your terminal crimp. So when you put that little ring terminal on, you can come in and squash it, and it does a decent job. The tool that I have coming is an actual professional ratcheting terminal crimp, and it does just the right amount of pressure, and it creates a beautiful crimp on the terminal. And because these are okay, this will only do, say, you see how the teeth on it? So if you crimp it down, it's just one blade crimp. The tool I have does 2 blades. It's a really nice tight crimp. This you would have to do 1 crimp and then move it over 1 inch and do another crimp. It'll do the job, but I really wanted a professional tool. It also has a wire cutter inside, which is a little bit clumsy, but it works. Because now you have to, say the wire's attached to something, you have to slide your tool inward on it and then cut it. So that being said, I have a professional wire stripper and cutter. Also has terminal, and again color coded for the correct wire gauge. I have it's a terminal crimp inside. I don't use them. I will use the wire cutter inside. It does a decent job at cutting the wire pretty effortlessly. But the best part about this tool is this double head here. It's pretty wild. You're going to stick your wire inside, pull it apart, and it perfectly strips a wire for you. So all you got to do is just come in, pull that off, and you have a nicely stripped wire. Now what also is great is, say you have a wire that you want to jump off of. So basically, I'm trying to keep this camera in focus. So basically, you don't have an end, but you need to open this up. So you're going to take that wire that you have that's never ending, it's going from one end to another somewhere, and you just want to open it. Well, this tool will do that too without actually breaking the wire. See how that works? Pretty cool, right? Very awesome tool. And when working with terminals, you don't need a lot of wire. You only need a tiny bit. So this thing has a little lever on it. Basically, you can slide your wire in right up to that yellow, there you are, right up to that yellow stopper. And it's just enough for a terminal. And if you want even less, let's cut that off. If you want even less wire, push this stopper up to the front as far as it'll go. Push the wire into right to that stopper, and it creates even less for you. Say you want more, just move this forward. If you don't want to use it at all, just roll it down and away, and now you can do an unlimited amount of wire. And this is made by Vice Grip. Pretty awesome tool. I love this thing. Runs about 30 bucks, well worth the money, believe me. You don't want to be, because what ends up happening, if you're using, say, a tool like this, to pull off the wire, you end up pulling and cutting in, where you at? You could end up pulling in or out some of this metal inside. And if you've ever stripped the wire, you'll know that when you do this job, sometimes you'll end up having some frayed ends on the piece you throw out. Well, now you just reduced the conductive material inside this wire and effectively dropped the amperage rating. So if this thing was rated to say, I don't know, 20 amps before, you might have just now made it 15, but yet you're still sticking it on a 20 amp item. So get yourself a good pair of wire strippers. And a tool that I have coming I'll review later, it's like I said, it's a crimper. It'll crimp terminal ends on wires. This is a standard like $10 heat gun. 2 settings. It's got low and high, and basically that's 600 watts or 1200 watts. And I've used this on everything from shrink wrap, like to wires, to working with vinyl wrap. I've done a couple carbon fiber vinyl wraps in a couple of different cars, and this thing has proven immensely useful. I've also done bumper repairs. I mean, anything you need to heat up, and believe me, 1200 watts is pretty damn hot. It's an absolutely awesome gun. Just be careful, it will melt paint, it will melt anything plastic or vinyl, but I've used this a lot. So moving right along, I'm going to venture to say it's my oil filter caps. These remove oil filters from the vehicle. This is for the Nissan. This is for the Hyundai filter, the OEM filter, and this is like a universal fit. I've actually had this since the race bike, and what it'll do is it'll latch on, and it'll go as small as necessary or as large as necessary. It's like a one-size-fits-all, and it gives you a great amount of torque to remove that filter. Now this won't work if you have a filter like the Hyundai, which mounts upward, and that's your only crevice is to get in there, is something about that wide. Can't get that tool in there, so you need this cap attached to the back of a ratchet or ratchet's extension rod, and it allows you to remove the filter. Moving right along, some of you guys will recognize this instantly what I'm doing here, and some of you won't, but this is your basic 4-inch C-clamp, and this is what you actually should be using. Now, I use this for, say you got a brake caliper, you need to push the piston back in. You really shouldn't be using this thing because it puts a lot of pressure in one very small spot, or this is alright because it's a pretty big C-clamp. Some people use a really small one, and this head here, the anvil part, it's really small, and you could end up damaging the actual caliper. So what you should be doing is sticking this tool in there, and this will go right up against the piston and right up against the back where the brake pad would be, and you can use this to begin to spread open the piston in the brake caliper. Great tool, probably about 30-40 bucks. Any brake job, this comes right out. Sometimes I wasn't able to find this tool because somebody would move it in the garage, and I was forced to use this thing because I was pressed for time. I didn't have time to be searching for that thing. So this thing has gotten quite a bit of use out of it on different brake jobs, but I'm really slow and methodical with this thing. I'm not really turning this knob really quickly, you know, because you can put quite a bit of pressure and ruin a piston or mar it up, or you could, you know, crack the actual casing of the brake caliper. Next on my list of very important tools to have if you're even the most average or small home mechanic, that's going to be a good quality torque wrench. This was, if I'm not mistaken, like 100 bucks or something, or 50 bucks, I don't know. Wasn't that cheap, but it wasn't that expensive. This is a 3/8 torque wrench. It's a ratcheting torque wrench. It can go either way. So you can tighten it up or loosen it and get the right torque reading on it. This will do 0 or 10 on the scale up to 75 foot-pounds of torque. And basically you will loosen this up and twist this around until the 0 reaches the first dash, and that's going to be 10 pounds. If you want to do a little less than that, just simply subtract this and it will do it. And when you have it set on whatever weight you want, tighten this down and begin to twist, and it will click when it's to the exact tightness. Oh, great. Now you see how much I've used this thing? It's filthy. Don't drop these. Don't bash anything with them. This is not a ratchet. It's not supposed to take place of a ratchet or a breaker bar. These are extremely sensitive. They don't last very long if you beat the hell out of them. It's probably a good idea to check these against another one. Maybe even buy a real cheap one from Harbor Freight for like 10 bucks and test once in a while, test this against that thing or vice versa, because they will go out of whack. And once they are out of whack, there is no way to repair them. It's over with. Just chuck it. But the more expensive, obviously, the better quality torque wrench. Why are these important? Well, if you over torque a bolt or a nut, you will possibly break or strip the threads, and then you're pretty much shit out of luck. And this thing is very, very important when dealing with brakes, when dealing with things like lug nuts. You don't want to make it too loose, the nut or bolt, and you don't want to do it too tightly. Too tightly, and due to heat expansion, you could potentially cause a massive accident or death. So get yourself a good torque wrench. Next on my list is probably something I use when I'm in kind of a rut now, or I get a little too creative for my own good and I need something really small or something extremely powerful to cut something or to maybe grind something away if it's not fitting correctly. Basically, when you're taking things like LED light bars, or you're taking things like LED modules, or you're taking just whatever, I mean, and it's kind of like a one item fits all applications. It might not fit your application. So that's where this thing comes in. It is a full Dremel kit. I have, these are all the different attachments, you know, from sanding to grinding to sharpening to cutoff wheels. I have many different style of cutoff wheels, from big to small ones, you name it, I got it. You can do polishing with it. You know, there's plastic bristles you can get that can help, you know, remove maybe some paint off of something if you need to do it. All different type of attachments, really cool stuff, and you can get as many as you want. You don't have to abide by this kit. Inside is going to be the 400 XPR, which is pretty much, at least at that time it was, and I think it still is, the highest you can get of a Dremel kit. You got these two. Basically, this will slide in to your Dremel, and you can use this to grind away some of a flat surface, like say a bottom of a door. You know, it doesn't fit right. You know, it's dragging on a carpet. This would be a perfect tool for that. And what else is cool about this Dremel is it comes with this attachment, and it's basically a snake, where this will attach to the head of the Dremel right here, and it gives you a secondary pen style tool with a stopper, so you can really maneuver in a very tight quarter and, you know, grind away or cut away some excess material while this stays on the actual unit itself, like so. Or you can just use the Dremel itself, you know, but if you don't got the space, this snake is really awesome. I've used this quite a bit. Kind of a pain to get on and off, you know. I mean, if you keep things inside your kit like I do, because I have to stay pretty mobile. You know, friends and family rely upon me. This is, you can use a grinding stone inside of here if you put this on the tip of the actual unit, and you can cut, or sharpen lawnmower blades, all different types of things. This will do a really cool sharpening job on different things. Here's a router bit. Screw this on the tip, and now you got a router that you can maneuver around and cut circles with, things like that. Guys, for speaker boxes, you know, for subwoofers, whatever. And this has been a pretty important tool in my kit. I've used this, like I said, honestly, usually when I don't expect to need it, that's when I need it. Because I'll install something in the car, I start positioning it in, and I realize there's just not enough clearance on either side. So let's see what else. All right, last on this list of my most favorite and probably most used tools is going to be drip pans. I have things, for example, for engine coolant I use. Well, I mean, you can wash them out, use them for anything you want, really. I have this style for, you know, smaller leaks, and I have this gigantic gray pan for oil changes. You know, oil will slosh out and it'll splash around, and I contain it with this big gray one. This is probably my most used one, and these are some of the smaller ones. I honestly use this one for the motorcycle when I would do end of season drainings of engine ice or engine coolant, red line, whatever it is you got to use at the track. And I've kind of grown with them. I started out with the smaller black one, picked up this one, and then I said, you know what, I'm just tired of getting splashed, and I got this big gray one. Alright guys, so I kind of let you into my private life a little bit, let you roam around my garage, and you got to see just a small smidgen of some of my favorite tools. Thanks guys for watching. Me and the two pistons are signing off. Take care guys.